If you're an online coach, agency owner, or course creator who's struggling to get your team to perform beyond the bare minimum, you often find yourself wishing that your team would do just a little bit more than absolutely necessary. You want them to kind of like be creative, innovative, do fun stuff. You do the things that makes you excited. It makes you think, holy crap, that was good. That was better than I would have done it. And first off, you're not alone struggling with this. And second of all, you're definitely in the right spot because that's what we're going to talk about today. Today's episode, we're diving into a little known phrase that since I started using it, I've never been ghosted by a VA and I've never fired one after this. It's a trick that I took from the military and implemented in the online business. To get started on this, we need to figure out what it is that makes people engage, what makes people care about things. There's a big misconception. You've probably heard about Simon Sinek and Start with the Why and the company vision and all these things. And while they are important, they are not as important as you think. And they're also only a fraction of what is important. But what we're going to talk about today is way more nuanced, way more detailed, way more specific to your situation as an online business owner, running a team. Maybe, you have 2 VAs or you have 6, you have a full team, doesn't really matter. But if you want to kind of get them to really care about the task as much as you do, to make them be like really part of your business, then we have to figure out the why of things, why they should be doing things, why they should care. And you can kind of see it like this. When I went on deployment, when I went to West Africa, or when soldiers in general go to war, they sign up for like democracy and the flag and freedom and stuff like that. And then they get deployed and then shit hits the fan, bombs starts going off, people are dying and things are horrible. In that moment when bullets are flying by and you think that this might be your last moment, soldiers don't think about freedom, democracy, or the flag or country. They think about the freaking dude next to them. They think about their family. Suddenly, the things that are super valuable, super important becomes the top of their mind. And it becomes really clear and really honest about what's truly important to them. So in the trenches, people think about the people next to them. They think about their own health and they think about getting back home to the people they love. That's the why. That's the real why. The flag is gone. The bigger mission is gone. The vision is gone. And the lesson here is something like, if we don't figure out why people fight, why people show up for work, why people solve your tasks, their deep why, then once things get a little bit tough, once it gets a little bit boring, they're going to change their mind and they're going to want to do something else. They're going to get out of the trenches. If it's a war, you can't leave the trench. You're kind of, in the shits, right? But if it's in your business, and they're in the trenches, they're doing the horrible stuff, they're going to probably just ghost you, or they're going to just like, I'm going to quit, or they're going to do all these things that makes you have to hire a new person. And then you're going to lose trust in VAs and you're going to lose trust in where you hire them and stuff like that. So instead, we're going to have a look at like how you could do that better, how you can figure out a good why and how you can speak to that why in a sense where they know it's worth fighting. They know it's worth continuing with this boring task. They might not even see it as boring anymore because they understand and they feel that it's important. One of the most common mistakes I see when it comes to this is that there's a bunch of leaders. I've done the mistake myself. I probably do it myself sometimes too, is that we will assume that people are driven by specific things. So that's why you see incentives like giving people more money. If you do this, you'll get more money. Because you assume that if you just add more money to their work, then they will do a better work. This is proven since like the 70s. It doesn't really work this way. If you give people monetary incentives, they will do exactly what they need to get those monetary incentives. And the scary things with incentives are that they work. They work so freaking well. There's even a famous quote by, I can't remember who said, show me the incentives and I'll show you the outcomes, because they're so tightly connected. And so going back to this study from the 70s, it's something like, if you have a very repetitive task, you're in a factory, you want them to press a button, boop, 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 and you want them to do that faster, boop, 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 then you could just pay them more. You could pay them for every button press and they will do it faster. But if you ask someone to do something more creative, more risky, more stuff like that, giving more money doesn't mean better result. It actually meant the opposite. When they gave people more money to be creative, they actually turn into become less creative. They find fewer ways of doing things. If you pay someone to find the best idea, then it actually stifles their creativity. But if you pay someone to generate ideas, then they're going to generate ideas. So incentives and structures like that are super important. But the point that I want to make is that oftentimes the things we think are important to them are not. Just look at our close relationships. Like, how often do we say something to someone and then we look them in the face and we realize, oh, that wasn't really well received. It's because we thought that what we said was something that they valued or something they thought was good, but we actually just screwed it up because we didn't fully understand what they want, what they cherish, what is their why. I hope this makes a bunch of sense because it's important. And if there's any questions, just comment below or send me an email or reach out to me on LinkedIn. Another very common problem that I see is that people come to me and they ask me, like, why don't my people care about the task? They're just doing the bare minimum. They never innovate. They never do anything fun. It's just like, just enough to get paid. And I just ask them, hey, what are you doing to give them a reason to care? Like, how are you communicating this so they actually have a reason to give a crap? Because that's our job. Our job is to figure out how to communicate things to our team so that they do care. We can't put it all on them to find some type of, inner hippie that's always satisfied and happy and finds the bigger purpose of things. No, that's our job, We are here to set the direction. We're here to give them a framework. We're here to give them a end state of their work so they could go out and do it. That's our job. So basically, there are two main mistakes I really want you to think about. One is your assumption of what they think is important. You got to figure out that your assumption aligns with what is actually true and what they actually want. The second one is you have to figure out reason why this is important to them. And if you can't do that, you're going to struggle. You might have to spend some time on this to figure out why and how this is important to them, but it's important that you do. Because as we said before, if you can't match their purpose and their drive with the task, as soon as it gets a little bit tough, they're going to bail. They're going to ghost you. They're going to maybe quit, just going to do the minimum work, and they're going to not work to your expectations. And one of the dangerous things that I don't like is that if you have people who don't really have a strong why, like, I want to really excel here, I want to perform here, they will actually avoid opportunities. A classic one that I see a couple of times is that your VA or your team, they will see something happening, they will see an opportunity for improvement, and they will let it go. And the reason why they will let it go is because they don't care. And if they choose to share that opportunity with you, it's probably going to mean more work for them. And since they don't care, why do it? Another very common mistake that I see is that leaders talk about the vision of the company, the 5-year plan or a 10-year plan, and what the heck this is all about. But the problem is this: most VAs, most teammates, especially in a remote setting, they don't care. They don't give a crap. That's the honest truth. Like, they don't care. And especially not as much as you do, because they don't reap the benefits. They don't have the skin in the game if something goes wrong. So they really have no reason to care. But there is a new way of doing this, where you could start to communicate the same boring task that they don't seem to care about in a way where they will excel and take ownership and create and innovate and like give you back results which are beyond what you expected, which I think is the cool part. That's what I want from you. All the things we're doing together, all the teachings, all the trainings, aims basically at you getting a team that each time you delegate something, you get back something that is better than you could have done yourself and better than you could have imagined. That's what I want for you. And that's what all these trainings that I'm doing is aimed at. If you feel like you don't have time for this stuff, well, there's a shortcut. And that is just basically hire me and my team, and we will build the workflows and we will train your team for you. And then we will hand that things over to you. That's also an option. But for those of you guys who want to learn and master this, all of this training is aimed to doing exactly that. So a few years back at the military teams, I had gotten the assignment from my commander that we need to send one guy off to medical school to train the people who are going on the next deployment. They need medical training. And I'm like, that's perfect. We got a medical expert on our team. He's our combat lifesaver, as it's called. I'll just send that dude. Yeah, talk to him, and he's like, I don't like to stand in front of people. I don't want to be a teacher. I feel very uncomfortable. Just like, it doesn't make any sense. I don't want to do it. And yes, it is a military setting, so I could just give him orders and tell him how to do it. But to be honest, that's pretty shitty leadership. So I tend to avoid that until the deep end. So then it was up to me. Okay, how can I figure out a way where I could see what drives him and match that with this task? Because for him now, this task sucks. It's like a shitty task. He doesn't want to do it. But I knew him from a while, and I've watched him, and I knew that every time he had the possibility to make other people's life safer, he would sparkle a little bit. He would get a little bit of joy. He'd get a little bit of excitement. I mean, that's why he's a medic, right? So then I came back to him and I said, hey, do you want to have an impact on the guys who's going on deployment? Do you want to make their life safer? Do you want to make sure that they have a safe deployment as possible? Is that something you want to be a part of? And like instantly he just reacted like, yeah, sure, that would be cool. And I'm like, okay, cool. You know that task I mentioned to you 1 week ago? Yeah, that's the one. And first he felt a little bit tricked. You could see his face is like, what? I said no to this already. But then you could also see his head started, ticking. Something was happening. And he kind of looked at me and he kind of nodded a little bit and smiled. Yeah, you know what? I'll give it a try. So it can be as simple as that. We match their wants with the outcomes of the task. And if we could do that, we could get them to kind of do things that they at first didn't want to do. And they could do that with ownership and creativity and engagement. So what happened? Well, yeah, now he's one of the foremost medical experts and teachers we have. He actually working at that school, the medical school now for a long time and during a couple of years. So that's pretty exciting. And just a change of words. I hope you're excited because this is a big deal. You could use this with your family, with your remote team, with your in-office team, your best friends, because if you could find their why and you can communicate whatever it is that you want them to do in a way that it talks to their why, it's incredibly powerful. So how the heck do you do this? First off, you got to figure out what their why is. This is a big deal. A very common mistake here is that people go and ask them, oh, well, what's your why? What's your purpose? What's your drive? And if they have a question, it's probably going to be the wrong one. I'm sorry. But most of us has never done the hard work of figuring out what it actually drives us, why we go to work. So a much better way to figure out what drives people is to give them a task, put them in a situation, and then see how they react. If there's something that makes them a little bit excited, makes them a little bit extra engaged, did it return extra good results this time? And then from that task, you extrapolate what you think it might be, and you put that into the next task, and you test it. So instead of asking, you just test things. This is step number one. Once you have a little bit of an idea of what drives them, what gets them excited, you're going to take that idea or that thought of what excites them, and you're going to take the task and you're going to see what the heck inside of that task can be communicated in a way so that it reflects the benefits they want. So in the example I said before, I would have to communicate the task so that he sees that he's making other people's lives safer. And that's a big driving force for him. He's a very caring person. In your case, maybe it's something like you're making someone do a graphical design and you show them that, okay, if you do this now, there's a one chance for you to practice and that will lead you towards being promoted as the head graphical designer in the future. So that makes them see like how this is beneficial to them in the bigger picture, in the long run. And if that is a driving factor for them, then chances are you have them a little bit more engaged with the task this time. Now that you've matched the why with the task and you've sent them out to do it, you also got to watch them. Okay, how did they react? Did they come back with better results? Was there something that got them excited? And those are good questions. You can ask them hey, was there something about this you really enjoyed? And if they say yes, then ask them why. Be a little bit curious. Don't be questioning. Ask them like, how come you really enjoyed that? It's a part of that we could do more of. And a big deal here is that as soon as they do something really well, give them feedback in the moment. Give them right there, right now. Tell them what they did good and tell them with specificity. Because if you do that, you're going to reinforce that behavior and you're going to get more of that, which is a really awesome way of getting your team to work better. So those are basically the 3 steps that I want you to go through. First, identify the motivations. Then you align the motivations with the task, and then you give them feedback on everything they're doing awesomely well. And it doesn't have to be more complicated than this. I've spent 12 years in the army. I've used this way of operating and working to build some of the most strongest team that our company had seen. We're the only team who did 3 or even 4 back-to-back deployments without breaking up, and it's all because we got to know each other's why, and we got to communicate tasks and communicate with each other where everybody could see why things are important, not just out of an organizational level, but out of a perspective where like I felt that, oh, this is important to me, truly important. Not because of democracy or the flag, but because it would benefit me in the long run or something that I cared about. And you could say that's egotistic or egoistic or whatever, but it doesn't matter. You can either try to change the world, psychology of the human being, or you could, learn to live with it and make amazing teams or build amazing teams. I choose to do the latter, and it worked really well. And for some of you guys, this is going to be like complex, like, oh, how do I remember this? Well, you don't have to remember this. All of this is inside the tool, the Crystal Clear Delegation tool, which is free for you guys, which you can find on sunkersleadership.com/podcast. And that's a pre-made tool for you. It's based on all the principles that I talk about, taken from military planning at a super high level when things really need to work. So if you fill that tool out and you communicate those things inside the task, you will communicate why they care about. You will have explained a good enough end state so they understand. And you will have set the rules so you know they're creating the right things. If you want to make your life super simple, go to sunkersleadership.com/podcast, download the Crystal Clear Delegation tool, and start filling it out today. Over there, you'll also find our free community for online course creators, agency owners, and coaches. And if you want to chat with me, come over to LinkedIn. I'm Gabriel von Knorring, and you can meet me there and hang out. I would love to hear your comments about the podcast. All right, guys, take care and see you next time.